What I love about Sondheim is he brought a level of emotional complexity to music theater that's not often seen.
Oh, he's probably our finest, most prolific writer of his generation.
The music is also very rich. Of course, his lyrics are second to none. They're just the more I look at Sweeney Todd, some of the lyrics are just fantastic.
I've never done Sondheim before. So, I mean, as a professional, I did it when I was younger, but I'm in accounts.
This is actually my first official Sondheim show. I've been wanting to perform Sondheim for many, many years, actually since I was in college and started to learn what these two magic words were, Stephen Sondheim.
This is my third Sondheim show. I've done Follies, I've done A Funny Thing Happened the Way before a handful of times, and this has always been my dream to do this show.
This is the first time I've been introduced to Sondheim doing it myself, and it's challenging.
What's challenging about it, and what's fun about it, is, the process, the learning process of the show is taxing.
So it's been hard, but I'm really enjoying it more than I thought I would. I was nervous.
It's challenging, but it's also very fun.
The music is very complicated and often wonderful. He has a reputation for having cerebral music, and I would say that some of it certainly is, but there certainly is some extraordinarily beautiful music. And if you're seeing Sweeney Todd, you'll hear some just gorgeous melodies throughout the evening that just make it such a rich piece.
So this is a thrill and an enormous challenge.
He really demands everything you have to give, and he's not afraid to go there.
When I was 6 or 7 years old, I took piano lessons, which is what every nice Jewish boy did in upper middle class Manhattan. But I wasn't particularly interested in it, but there was music that somewhere within me. And then my parents got divorced when I was 10 years old. My mother had custody of me, and she bought a farm in Pennsylvania, a farmhouse really with acreage attached. I was an only child. She needed a way of occupying my time, and she also liked celebrities a lot. And she knew the Hammersteins. They lived a few miles away, and they had a son my age. So Jimmy Hammerstein and I became fast friends, and Oscar became a sort of surrogate father to me. I've often said, if Oscar had been, a geologist, I would have been a geologist. I just wanted to do what he did. I wanted to be him, so to speak, and so that's how I got interested in writing songs.
He writes incredibly difficult, incredibly specific, incredibly challenging pieces to sing and act, and he really knows how to capture the humanity of characters through music.
One of the things that people discuss about Sweeney Todd is whether it's an opera or it's music theater or it's dark operetta, it seems to defy boundaries. I kind of consider it to be an opera, one of the greatest American operas written. Opera companies have performed it all across the country, all across the world, in fact.
There is no parking and barking, as the expression is said in some classical music and opera. And actually, even Sondheim, he doesn't write musical theater, he writes operettas, really. He demands that kind of singing.
Well, what's interesting is that it fits into the milieu of many performing venues, everything from high schools, community theaters, to colleges, universities, regional theaters, dinner theaters, opera houses. It's explored by all these different sorts and types of companies.
Because it's operatic in scope, yet it has the integrity of a piece of theater. It is theater, so we have to tell this story through this enormous, almost operatic piece.
Operas have no dialogue, and so they can be conceived in the, like Wozzeck, in one long idea. The idea of the long line in music.
That goes from the first movement to the
holds the whole thing together.
Right.
Because your problem is, you got a 35-minute piece. How do you hold it together so it isn't just an add-a-pearl? So it's just tune, 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 tune. Well, you do it with a structure, and I do that with long songs. I still do it. I structure the long line before I start filling in everything.
It's advanced use of compositional themes, which is a term that we use for opera called leitmotif. And in a lot of times in opera, like a character will have this theme, maybe 14 notes or so, to describe them that can get modified slightly based on the mood or emotion. Well, in Sweeney Todd, He uses Sondheim uses leitmotifs to give clues about the characters, to foreshadow things in ways that you don't often see in opera, and certainly not music theater.
When you're writing something like Sweeney Todd, where the characters' little cells, you know they're going to collide, so you start melding them together. So eventually, when you get to the big moments, there is a sense of structure because you've been using the material that you've been setting up all the way through. I found, incidentally, it sounds so pretentiously intellectual, but in fact, what it does is save you a huge amount of work. Because if you can take, I got this idea, and I got this idea, and I got it. Now I'm going to build a score. You don't have to invent very much, do you? You take this one and you turn it upside down, and it's a new tune. You take this one, you take the harmonies and say, instead of major, let's make it minor. And suddenly it's a new song.
One of the things that a lot of people talk about is that the main theme of Sweeney Todd, when they're singing "Swing Your Razor," what, it's the Dies Irae, but it's actually the Dies Irae up a third. It's the Gregorian chant from the Catholic Mass of the Dead, the Requiem Mass, and so the Dies Irae, Day of Wrath. That theme is used as a foreshadowing of all the wrathful actions and activities that are going to be taking place in the show.
Right, and always with a slight crescendo. So there's always a little leaning in, as if something's about to happen and then doesn't. Attend the tale of Sweeney Todd. His skin was pale and his eye was on. He shaved the faces of gentlemen who never thereafter were heard of again. Now there's an example of how you do creepy. By having a dissonance like that, and not quite resolving it, goes down to this chord instead of resolving it, and you feel a little relief, and then it goes. There's just that slight dissonance, and then back to. So the feeling is of lifting the voice a little bit and then dropping them a little, lifting, dropping. That may seem subtleties that nobody gets, but it creates a mood. And I don't think anybody would argue that the opening moments of this play are very creepy indeed.
Obviously the words. There's lots of words, and there are lots of notes on words, and on lots of words. So that makes it difficult because it's so textual, because so much of the story is told. I mean, I guess it's the case for all musicals, but there's a lot of information that comes out through the text, and it's such there's so much happening in all of his shows that it's kind of you can't really. It's all important. Every single word is so very important.
It's something I learned when I was writing West Side Story, and something that Arthur particularly steered me to as a playwright. He talked about subtext, and that there, which really means nothing more than the fact that you have to give an actor something to play that's maybe more than the surface, so that there is a little depth to the thing instead of just playing the lines. Of course, I'm sure there are times when one wants to just play the lines, but generally, subtext is what gives body to a scene or even a speech, even a sentence. Well, that's something music can do superiorly, because music tells you, or not tells you, indicates something else going on, even if it's the blandest music in the world, because it's another art form. So, yes, the lyrics are layered, but they're layered in relationship to the music.
And a lot of the fun in Sweeney Todd is this disconnect where a lot of the beautiful music that you hear is actually one of the most horrifying things that are happening on stage.
It makes me aware that I always need to be on top of my game at the highest level, and always looking for new ways to communicate the message, whatever's written.
It's just a lot of information. It's a lot of information. And, it's taught me how to count differently.
It goes from 5/8 to 4/8 to 5/8 to 4/8 to 6/8 to 5/8, just all these different time signatures, and it flows naturally. And the goal is that the audience doesn't hear all these mixed meters. They just hear this flow of melody, this flow of line, this flow of rhythm. And then you look at the page and realize just how complicated it is. And Sweeney Todd in particular is peppered with it. Not all of Sondheim's scores are.
And use different time signatures I'm not used to, and really figuring out how different things sound, because everything that he does is so full.
the rhythms, the timing. I mean, there are so many parts in the songs that we're singing where people are directly contradicting each other, where the syncopation isn't lining up at all, and that's just how it is. Get used to it. You just gotta get your job done.
What it is for me is the greatest challenge as both a singer and a musician.
And like so rich that, you know, just learning that language and like learning to navigate that world is challenging, but also at the same time extremely rewarding.
Music directing Sweeney Todd is really challenging. I've done it before, and I've forgotten how difficult it was.
Stretch in Act 1 from Pretty Women into Epiphany into A Little Priest, which is a marathon. It's a mini marathon, so that's challenging just for stamina, for vocal stamina and physical, emotional stamina.
As an ensemble member, you are an integral part of the story at certain points. You are always involved in that story. That's another thing I love about Sondheim. Nobody is bored.
I feel like it's just as stimulating and challenging for an audience member as it is for the actor.
Be prepared to experience the entire roller coaster of emotions.
He has some very complicated archetypes. It's this archetype of the anti-protagonist, and I think Sweeney is one of the greatest ones. One of those. You know, again, he's the protagonist of this piece, and yet he's terribly flawed and does horrible things.
With this particular character, because he can be perceived as the Grim Reaper or just a man with a bloodlust and full of vengeance, that he really is a man who is wronged by society first, and this is all out of his grief, all out of his loss of his wife, and it transforms into revenge, into bloodlust, into him losing his mind, basically. But it's basically to humanize this person. That's what's most important than what I'm trying to do with the role.